So I did some reading and I came to find out that a greater percentage of people are more inclined to buy from you after they read a positive review about your business. So an interesting little bit of research that I just came across is that if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is actually worth 1.8 million words a minute. In today's video, I'm going to share 3 easy steps for you to start crafting your testimonial videos for your business. What's going on? My name is Mark with Echelon Media, and welcome to the Echelon broadcast. As mentioned earlier, today we're going to talk about crafting testimonial videos for your business. But before we get going on this, I just want to make sure that you actually go ahead and subscribe. So I think the subscription button is like somewhere down here. So go ahead and click that. And next to that is like a little notification bell thing. So make sure you also hit that so that if you happen to like this video and you want to see more of it, you can be informed of when they drop every single week. And I do try to make a point of dropping these every single week because it's practical practice for me, and also because I think this is usable information for you if you happen to be a small business. Okay, so testimonials. I'm going to break this down into 3 easy steps. And by no means are these the finite. So, testimonials. I'm going to break this down into 3 easy steps. And by no means is this like the definite guide to doing this. This is just an easy way for you to think about it when you're starting out putting together testimonial videos. First of all, you want to make sure that whoever it is that you pick has a hell yeah attitude. Because the reason why is you want to pick a customer who is a very and the reason for this, and the reason why you want to pick someone with a hell yeah attitude is you want to pick a customer who has a really compelling story. A client who had a particularly tricky problem or situation, and you were able to come in and resolve that. Of course, you don't want to just pick any client if they happen to have a very tricky situation. Make sure that they're actually willing to share their story, and that's huge. The next thing that you want to go for is you want to make sure that when you produce these videos that you are heard and seen. And the reason why I put this in this order is because you can have the best production quality in terms of the image as possible. The lighting could be on point, the cinematography is amazing, the editing is great, the cuts are awesome. But the problem is if you can't understand the person, and at worst you can't hear what they're saying, it really ruins the message. And it's hard to tell a story if people can't understand or hear a person. The next thing you want to take into consideration is you want to share. And the reason why this is that oftentimes people will just sit on this information. And the reason why this is because oftentimes people will just sit on this content and they don't put it out there. The reason why you want to share this with your friends and family and people associated to you is that you never know that the person who is telling the story, let's say they happen to be a guy in their mid-40s who works just a normal job, working at like a woodworking shop, has a particular look, he is someone who has that same description, that same profile can relate to when they see this video. And if they happen to have the same issues as the woodworking young middle-aged gentleman who was in the video, then it makes more sense for someone who's watching this video, this testimonial video that you've created, to say, I could definitely use those services, and I have a certain degree of trust in whoever this provider happens to be because they're working with someone who looks a lot like me. That's just the way that things work. Now, I want to go a little bit deeper into these 3 points. So I kind of broke that down really quickly for you if you have a short attention span, and that way you can just take those and run with them, and you can go a little bit deeper into the technical information associated with them here, the rest of the video. So the first one is hell yeah. Now, like I said, you want to make sure, first of all, that the person that you're portraying in the video, the person who you're profiling, the client who is on the video, is actually willing to do it. It can be tricky sometimes because even though someone has a really compelling story, they may be shy or they're not the most talkative person. They're not the most enthusiastic, or not enthusiastic, but they're not the most willing to share this information, or they get really nervous in front of a camera. So it may actually take you a few attempts and a few clients to actually whittle down who it is that would be the better fit, who has a compelling story, as well as is willing to be in front of a camera and share that story with relative ease and not get too freaked out about the whole process. The next part that I mentioned is be heard and seen. And the reason why this is with any camera phone, you can definitely create phenomenal, astounding content with a pretty good look. I think most people now own camera phones with 4K capabilities, and so it's more than likely that you'll be able to get solid content, really good picture out of whatever videos you produce. The problem is a lot of times you may be in an environment that's noisy, it may be hard to hear, the person may have a difficult time trying to express themselves, so it may take a little bit of practice for them to really eloquently speak about their story. And so you might want to take some time really honing in and focusing on the verbal communication of the story. Because like I mentioned before, if we can't understand what you're trying to say, let alone even hear it, it kind of defeats the purpose of the whole thing, because we need to be able to hear what you're saying. We need to be able to understand what this person is saying in order for us to relate to the story that they're trying to tell. And then lastly, it was share. That was the last point that I was making, and that oftentimes we do sit on this content. I worked with a client, and we didn't really have a distribution channel or an idea of where we were going to put this content. And one place you can definitely put it is YouTube. And I say that because it's the easiest place that you can put out content of this type, because it's just meant for that. So if someone happens to be looking for a, let's say, a wood shop in the Sarasota area, then it's easier for them to look up Sarasota wood shop. And during that search, if you know, or if you happen to know about this, Google is the number one search engine in the world, and YouTube happens to be the second. I believe it's well, technically it's the third, because Google, it's like Google and then Google Images. Either way, YouTube follows at a second or a third, depending on how you see that list. And people more often than not actually go to YouTube to find informational content, and sometimes they'll look for things about some detail that they may need to find out. For example, I recently had to look up details about some details around legal things, and I was able to find very specifically legal information in my area for my particular circumstance, because someone had already put out that type of content out there. So if you happen to put out content based around let's say an auto mechanic shop, and you want to hear testimonials, or if you want to, if it just happens to pop up when someone searches Sarasota auto body shop, and part of the search results is people talking about their positive experiences with your shop, that is actually just going to work in your favor. And the reason why that is because now there's a place for people to look at this content and to be able to experience it. And so now it also gives you a place to kind of take that same link for that content. If you happen to post it as a video on YouTube, now you can share it everywhere else. And I would highly encourage that you do. So share it with friends and family, share it with people that are associated with your business, because part of the magic here is that you may share the story of a 45-year-old middle-aged guy with snowy white hair who has worked for ages in a wood shop and has a specific characteristic or look about him. And the people who watch it may not relate to it simply because they don't have that image or that look. But someone related, or someone who is associated to, let's say you shoot it out to your aunt. And your aunt really can't relate to it because this is a guy, he's in his mid-40s. She's never worked in a wood shop a day of her life, so she wouldn't know anything about those challenges. But if she happens to have a neighbor, or if she happens to know some guy named Bob at the place that she works at who has a similar experience, who has a very similar look and a very similar build and a very similar profile. Bob is more capable of, Bob can relate to the story of this person in the video because that's who Bob happens to look like. It's this part of human nature where we relate to and associate with people who look like us. And so if you happen to look at the circle of friends you have, sometimes, and I'm not saying this is like a hard and fast rule, sometimes you may discover that the people you associate with probably look really close to the way that you look. And so that's the last bit, is that you want to share. So share it with people because you never know who it is that will relate to the story. Anyways, that's a wrap. I want to make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Again, that's probably like down here. And right next to that is a little notification bell. Go ahead and click that as well. And well, I hope this was informative and useful. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, because I do share this in other platforms, if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, like I said, do the subscription deal over here. And if you have any thoughts, ideas, suggestions, questions, definitely hit me with some questions. I don't always want to just pull ideas out of my butt. I want to be able to answer some of the questions that you might have. Drop them in the comments, or if you feel so bold, you can actually reach out to me directly in some way. Actually, just drop them in the comments. And go ahead and like this video. So give it a thumbs up if you happen to like it. And if you don't like it, leave a comment below and let me know what it is that you didn't like. That way we can have an actual conversation. I can tell you what it is, or we can address the issue rather than just spin our wheels and not get anywhere because we're just hating each other. As always, my name is Mark with Echelon Media, helping you elevate your story. I will see you later. Peace.